Hello, welcome to Pursuit of Perfect System. I hope you are all well, staying home and staying safe. I thought it was about time to do the review for the Chord Electronics Hugo TT2 because since I've had it here, it's been in use the whole time, either in my main review system or in my office system in one fashion or another. And there's literally not been a spare second where I've had it available to do a review for it because, as I say, I've literally just wanted to use it constantly and take from that what you will. I have spent time with and or reviewed every single Chord Electronics DAC that they have manufactured and made in the last few years, and this one, the Hugo TT2, is without a doubt my favourite, and I actually think it is the perfect modern hi-fi components. Let me just clarify a couple of those comments. By saying the TT2 is perfect, am I saying that it cannot be bettered? Nope, that is not what I'm saying, because the Dave shows that the TT2 can be bettered. So how can I say that it is perfect? Well, give me a chance and I will explain. And the second point I need to clarify, modern hi-fi components. To better explain that, let me show you this. This is the mini Dsp S Hd Studio. Now, I bought this recently when I was looking to put together a system for in the office. I wanted to buy just a music streamer that had Dirac Live in it to do two things. And that is much more difficult than it might seem, because with a lot of modern hi-fi components, it seems like they all do at least four things. Think about that for just a second. Perfect example, the mini Dsp S Hd Studio. It is a music streamer. It is a Roon endpoint. It is a bass management solution. It's also a Dirac Live management solution. It's a headphone amplifier and it's a preamplifier. 6 different things, and there's probably a hell of a lot more that it does on top of that. Mini DSP, they are known across the industry for being audio Swiss Army knives. So let's look at the alternatives, what I could have bought instead of the mini DSP solution. I could have bought a solution from NAD. Now, to get a music source or a music streamer that also had Dirac Live, I had to buy one of their units that was a music streamer, it was Dirac Live, it was also a DAC, and it was also a preamplifier, and it was probably also quite a few other things on top of that. So that's 4. Let's just take away from my specific situation just for a minute and look at a lot of the different integrated amplifiers that I've reviewed over the last few years, and quite a lot of them, in fact the majority of them, have had inbuilt DACs. So with an integrated amplifier with an inbuilt DAC, you have an integrated amplifier, you have a DAC, you also have a preamplifier, because most of them have got pre-outs that you can use, and most of them have got inputs, analog inputs that you can use to turn that into a slave power amplifier. So that's 4 different things, even from an integrated amplifier. It seems to be like a trend with modern hi-fi components that manufacturers are trying to put lots of different things into single solutions. And while that doesn't always work for me, and that's not always what I'm personally looking for in a product, I accept it because I am just me, and clearly, you know, trends and the way markets go is supply and demand. So there's clearly the demand for it. So again, I accept the fact that this is how the current modern hi-fi market is. So bringing this all back to the Chord Electronics Hugo TT2, all of this is totally true. The Chord Electronics Hugo TT2 can be a standalone DAC, and an exceptionally good one. All Chord Electronics DACs use an FPGA chipset that you can see through the lovely window, and I have always loved this aspect of the Chord Electronics DAC designs. The chipset is fully programmable, and on that chipset is Rob Watt's, the infamous digital designer's custom code and custom filters. To keep things ultra simple, the Chord Hugo TT2 has around, or just under, but we'll just say for simplicity terms, 100,000 taps. And taps is a numerical indicator of really the digital to analog processing power of the DAC or of the DAC chipset. And really, to me, that is a numerical indicator of sound clarity, or really, I suppose, quality. Hugo TT2's little brothers, the Qtist and the Hugo 2, both have just under 50,000 taps, so about half. And the TT2's bigger brother, the Dave, has around 150,000 taps, so about a half again. So hopefully this helps to portray the picture of really the family of DACs that Chord Electronics make and where the Hugo TT2 sits. With the Hugo TT2, there are 4 different filter options, or really listening modes, that the user can select to make the sound of the TT2 even more incisive or warmer and more rolled off. And I always feel like these types of options are really nice to have. For digital inputs, the Hugo TT2 has USB, 2 optical inputs and 2 BNC based coaxial inputs. And for outputs, there are both balanced and single-ended analog connections. And the connections quality on the TT2 is very high. And I actually really appreciate when a hi-fi component has this type of quality of connections. When you compare this quality of connections to what we see generally across the more affordable hi-fi products, even Chord's own cutest DAC, you can really see the difference. And as I say, I really appreciate the extra quality being put into the connectors. The sound quality from the Hugo TT2 as a standalone DAC is exceptional. It's very atypical for a Chord Electronics DAC in that it's clean, it's clear. The soundstage it creates is very open, very wide, ultra detailed, and the layering is absolutely fantastic. And one of the things that it's got for me over the more expensive Dave DAC, in that it is smooth. It is a very smooth, engaging and easy listen. It's more forgiving, I think, than the Chord Dave DAC, which is obviously higher performing, that's going to give you a better separation and better layering and better soundstage. But for me, the Dave's always got like a raw sound to it, which might be what you want. This more smooth and easygoing sound of the TT2 might not be what you want, but for me, I think it works. And this aspect, or this function of the Hugo TT2, i.e. functioning as a standalone DAC, which really is the core of what it's been designed to do, I actually think is perfect for the price. And the price point, I'll talk a bit more about in a minute, because it's very interesting. There's quite a lot to consider with that. The second function to talk about with the Chord Electronics Hugo TT2 is that it can also be used as a preamplifier, which means you connect from the TT2 straight out to a power amplifier, as opposed to going into maybe an integrated amplifier or a preamplifier. And I've been using the TT2 as a DAC and preamplifier a lot, feeding it straight into Chord Electronics' own Toby amplifier with some fantastic results. You can use the ball on the front and turn that to change the volume, and then that ball will change color to indicate the volume level that it's set to. Now, I really love this aspect of the TT2. I've not always been a fan of Chord Electronics' use of LED based spheres in their designs, but this particular use and the way it feels and the way it responds and the colors and everything is just absolutely awesome. Again, perfect. And the sound quality from the TT2, when you use it as a preamplifier, obviously combined with the DAC, it sounds pretty much the same as you get straight from the DAC. So it's a clean, clear, open, detailed, fantastically layered, brilliant soundstage, very engaging and very smooth for the most part. The third function of the Hugo TT2, and this one is pretty obvious when you look at the front of it, is that it can be used as a headphone amplifier. On the front, you can see there is 3 different headphone inputs. There are 2 1/4-inch jack inputs and a 3.5mm headphone jack input, which is great because it means you shouldn't ever need to use a headphone cable adapter. When you install the headphone cables, the Hugo TT2 automatically engages headphone mode, as you can see indicated on the screen, and headphone mode will remember the last settings that you used for headphone mode, including volume, so bear that one in mind. There are some sound tuning options that are specific to the headphone mode, which you can find in the menu system. For its output, the TT2 is rated to drive headphones up to 800 ohms, so very high impedance headphones. Sadly, I don't actually own any high impedance headphones. My reference headphones are the Audi's LCDX, which are only 20 ohms, very easy to drive, and that is actually one of the reasons why I bought them. Comparing the output of the Hugo TT2 to Chord Electronics' very own Mojo, which is, you know, hugely popular. I'm sure everybody's at least heard of Mojo, and I've spent a lot of time with the Chord Mojo on the desk. You can actually see it over there if you look, using it as a desktop headphone system. And for the money, it's absolutely outstanding. But when you compare, when you spend time with the Hugo TT2, I managed to get about a week's worth of time using it on the desk there. And that system on this desk is really designed to, you know, create these videos for you. So I spend hours and hours and hours every single week in here with headphones on, working on these videos. Using the TT2 for a week was really, really interesting. When it was time to go back to using the Mojo, I could really very clearly hear how big a step down that was really to the Mojo, and the TT2 was really showing to me the weaknesses in the performance of the Mojo. So much so, in fact, that I started looking at my finances to think, you know, can I afford to buy a TT2 to have two of them? One for in here, for on the desk for this headphone setup and maybe this review setup, and one for my main review listening room. Take from that what you will. The sound quality for the headphone output, the flexibility of the headphone output, and the drive capability of the headphone output of the Hugo TT2 is pretty damn close to being perfect or perfectly good enough, and certainly perfectly good enough at the price point. Now, the fourth function of the Hugo TT2, and now this is one that takes you a little bit of getting your head around, is that the Chord Electronics Hugo TT2 can also be an amplifier. Now, I don't mean it's an amplifier with a DAC built in. I mean it is really a DAC that can be a preamplifier that can also be an amplifier. It's capable of driving 8 ohm speakers up to 20 watts or really consistently 18 watts. I think this is thanks to some clever integration of supercapacitors which replaced the LiPo batteries that was used in the original Hugo TT. Now, I need to hold my hands up and say this is one aspect of the Hugo TT2 that I haven't tested as of yet. That is large in part to needing a special cable, and by special I mean a speaker cable that's correctly wired up to an XLR output, and realistically you need, or it's best suited to, higher sensitivity speakers, and I haven't had my hands on any higher sensitivity speakers since I've had the TT2 here. Some people might say, well, hold on Terry, not being able to drive every single pair of speakers on the market makes this function not perfect, and I partly agree with you, but there's a lot of amplifiers out there on the market which are not suitable to every single speaker system, such as maybe single-ended valve amplifiers. So criticism taken on board for sure, but I bet similar to the owners of those single-ended tube amplifiers, the owners of the TT2 that are also using it as an amplifier with the right speakers, and I know this through experience of speaking to some, they speak very, very highly of the TT2 as an amplifier. So even though in a way it seems like a novel thing for it to be an amplifier, I actually still think it's a very serious aspect of the TT2's performance. And when you roll that into the package of DAC preamplifier and a potential amplifier for the price point, again, I think it is perfect. The fifth function of the Chord Electronics Hugo TT2, it's also a Bluetooth receiver. You can connect to it very easily via a smartphone or a tablet or similar, and easily and conveniently stream your music direct to it. So there you have it. That's 5 features of the Chord Electronics Hugo TT2, which puts it into that modern hi-fi category that I spoke about at the minute. And there's probably others actually that I haven't thought about or haven't considered, but clearly there's a couple that's missing. It's not a streamer as well, is it? It doesn't stream your music, and it doesn't pour you a beer and give your feet a massage. But I'm sure some audiophile owners would argue that it definitely gives your ears a nice massage, and I wouldn't disagree. But outside of all of this, I think the Hugo TT2 has a really nice form factor. I think it is a really nice size, a really nice design. I would prefer it to have a little bit more weight to it, but there's enough weight to it for you to feel that it's very well built, and it is extremely well built. And the little screen that's on the front, yes, it is very small, but I also really appreciate it, because for me there's nothing more reassuring seeing with letters or words the mode that you're in, as opposed to using any other type of LED indicator. The menu system is very, very simple, and it's one of those systems that you can easily work out, and you probably only occasionally need to go and look at the manual. And then there is the upgrade path. You can add on to the Hugo TT2 the Chord Electronics Hugo M Scaler, and if you're a regular to the channel, you will know how I feel about the Chord Electronics Hugo M Scaler. To quote myself, it is the best digital audio thing since sliced bread. And I really love this aspect, because I love it when a piece of hi-fi is upgradable as opposed to needing to be replaced. And if you think about it, the Chord Electronics Hugo M Scaler will upgrade the DAC, which means it also upgrades the preamplifier, it also upgrades the amplifier, it also upgrades the headphone amplifier, not so much the Bluetooth aspect, but that means, and because they're all intrinsically linked, if you upgrade one, essentially you upgrade them all. Very, very cool. And another reason why I feel the Hugo TT2 is perfect. So lastly, we need to look at the price of the Chord Hugo TT2. At the time of making this video, it costs just shy of £4,000. To put that into perspective with the other Chord products that offer similar features, we have the Dave that costs just shy of £8,500, and we have the Hugo 2, which costs just under £1,800. So at £4,000, the Hugo TT2 sits perfectly in the middle. Everybody's lives are different, everybody earns different amounts of money. Just going from my own life and my own earnings over the years and how much money I've earned from different jobs that I've done, I would find it extremely difficult, or it would take me a really long time to save £8,500. In contrast, I would find it much, much easier to get my hands on £4,000 to buy a high performance DAC, maybe preamp and maybe amplifier if you want that as well. And for £8,000, you could choose to buy the Hugo TT2 and the Hugo M Scaler and still have £500 in your pocket for records or CDs or whatever you want to buy. So when you consider that as an overall package for a price point, considering what the TT2 can do at the quality that it can deliver it at, again, it's hard to not see it as a perfect product, with one major exception. And this is not me pointing the finger at Chord Electronics, this is me pointing the finger at the whole modern hi-fi market. And I want to bring you back to the start of the video where I spoke about the Mini Dsp S Hd Studio. That product has umpteen different features in it, and when I bought it I wanted just 2. But the retail price that I paid for it is factoring in the fact that it can offer you all these features. So I've bought it for 2 and paid for 6. So it's a similar situation here with the Chord Electronics Hugo TT2. What features do I actually want from it, and how is the cost of it split across those features. So if I'm using the TT2 up here in the office system, I might be using it for its DAC and its preamplification and its maybe headphone output, in which case the cost of it is very, very easily justified across the 1, 2, 3 or 4 or 5 features of it that I want to use. However, in contrast to using my main review system where I'm mostly using it as a standalone DAC, the cost of it then feels different, which is in a way a bit painful because I really love it as a standalone DAC, and I love the fact that it's got more than Chord Electronics' only other standalone DAC, the Cutest. I like the fact that the Hugo 2 has got A, better sound quality, B, better connection quality, and C, better connection flexibility, i.e. balanced connections as well. In a way, I would still love to see Chord Electronics make the Tel. I don't know if you remember this from years and years ago. I mentioned that it would be fantastic to see them make just purely a high performance standalone DAC with an external power supply, as opposed to the multi-function products that they generally make. Now I know it's probably very, very difficult from a business point of view and a manufacturing point of view to offer that. Back to again where I started in the video, the demand and supply situation. You know, the demand or the needs or the requests of one is outweighed by the requests or the needs or the demands of many. But either way, that's something that I would like to see, because I'm sure there's not just me in this situation. I'm sure there's lots of audiophiles out there in the situation where they just want a standalone DAC, and in a way feeling like you're paying for other features that you're not going to use is maybe the only area where I can see that the Hugo TT2 isn't perfect. And I think to clarify even more why I'm saying that the Chord Electronics Hugo TT2 is a perfect modern hi-fi component is because of its equal delivery of quality across all the functions and features that it offers. In my experience with other products that I've used, some of their features or functions are very standout, and some of their features and functions are not quite as good. And I think I just want to finish this review on this little thought, in the sense that the Chord Electronics Hugo TT2 is absolutely brilliant as a product. It's brilliant as a DAC, really the core function of it. It's probably the best DAC you're going to buy at this price point, probably. I haven't tried them all, but probably is. And the fact that it can be at the center of your hi-fi system, delivering an outstanding DAC performance, is fantastic. But also the fact that it can be pretty much your whole hi-fi system as well, then it's really very cool in my mind. Very, very cool. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's been useful and helpful. If you want to see sound demonstrations of me using the Chord Electronics Hugo TT2, look back through the last 20 that I've done, because pretty much 20 or more has all been with the Chord Hugo TT2. I feel like that's the DAC that I want to use now all the time, hence why getting this video in, getting this review made has been quite difficult. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been fun, useful and all that good stuff. If it has, hit the thumbs up button and I'll be seeing you soon. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.